Module 2, the shoulder. Okay, let's talk about shoulders, okay? You'll see them in the majority of gyms. Some will either do a overhead barbell press or dumbbell press. In my opinion, okay, and it's more towards fact, we should never be pressing anything over our head. We were quadrupeds and then eventually became primates and stood upright. So we should not, we're not made to press anything overhead. And think about this. Put your arm, this is called a closed pack position, okay? Just do that. It's not even comfortable. And now what you're going to do is you're going to add a load on there. The stress on the shoulder joint is incredible. I will say one caveat. You can press, okay? There's a pressing motion that is more functional. Okay, because when you're in life, what do you do with the anterior deltoid? And that's all it's going to work is the anterior deltoid. Okay, this is what the anterior deltoid will do, and it's in this plane. Okay, so when you go to a coverage reach or something, you're using an anterior deltoid. So I could say you could take a barbell, put it in the corner, and just press like this. But that's functional. Okay, it will work the muscle, but there's much better ways. So we have 3 parts of the shoulder. We have the anterior deltoid, which is the front, anterior being front. We have the lateral, or the side deltoid, and the posterior. The first one I'd like to talk about is the posterior deltoid. Why? Well, I walk around this earth and I look at this human species, and the majority of people are internally rotated shoulders as they walk. So they're like this. They're overdeveloped anterior deltoids. Forgetting about them being in the gym or not, in functioning life, they only use, we're in a forward motion, everything like this. So their anterior deltoid is developed. Now, the posterior deltoid, remember we talked about the chest being shoulder horizontal adduction? Okay, this is shoulder abduction away from the body. So tell me, what we do in life, functionally, does this? Nothing. So you'll see people that are bent over and their shoulders will flex forward. Why? Because they don't have strong enough posterior deltoids to pull them back in position. So what I tell every single client is the first part of the deltoid that you should work is the posterior, when you're the strongest. Because if you can strengthen up that posterior, it's going to naturally pull you back in position. How many people sit at a computer all day and you'll notice they'll anterior rotating their shoulders? Or guys that bench and do shoulder presses and do everything that really works the anterior deltoid. You see they have these big anterior deltoids and they'll walk around like this. That's how they walk around because they're forced to. It's the way they've developed their body. So again, we have 3 parts of the deltoid: the anterior, the medial, which is the side, and then the posterior. So let's talk about the posterior first, okay? And again, what it does is shoulder horizontal abduction. So you're away from the body. The best movement for this specific muscle could be done, I think, on a cable. It causes less stress. You can do it bent over with a dumbbell, but you're putting a lot of stress on the spinal erectors, and most people don't have very good, strong spinal erectors. So I'm going to have Steve demonstrate the cable, standing cable, posterior deltoid fly. Where the position of the cable is, so that he's right in line with resistance. He's directly opposing and he's in line with resistance. And he's pivoting, his chest is nice and high, his knees are slightly bent, and he is just abducting back. And he's pivoting directly from the shoulder joint. His elbows are slightly bent in a locked position. And again, the muscle is small, so it should not. You don't need a lot of weight to stimulate and stress this muscle. And you want to make sure. And again, see the eccentric component and the concentric component. He's not throwing it back; he's contracting it, causing the most amount of tension in that posterior deltoid. Again, it's shoulder horizontal abduction. So when we know what the muscle does, we know, where we know where it inserts and attaches, and it pulls. So any motion that can mimic this and your opposing resistance would be good. This is a phenomenal exercise. There's a pec deck that you can use that actually will mimic this as well. You can use dumbbells, they're okay, but again, most people don't have strong spinal erectors because you're going to actually bend over like this, and you're putting a lot of stress on those spinal erectors, which most people don't have strong ones. Okay, good. Okay, we talked about the posterior deltoid, you're working it first when you're the strongest because you want to focus on that because it's the most underdeveloped muscle in the shoulder. And now we're going to do the medial or side deltoid as it's called. And what that muscle does, it's this way. Well, that's what it's put on your body, so you can move your arm from here to here. So now all you're going to do, you know what the muscle of motion is. We're going to add a load, a dumbbell. And with this motion, the elbow is slightly bent, and you're going from the side of your body out. And Steve will demonstrate it. Notice he's not touching his thighs. He's coming up. He's squeezing it for a 1001 count and coming down nice and slow. Notice also his traps are not being raised. You'll see a lot of people who throw this up and raise their traps. I also see people who actually will go up on their toes as they come up. They'll use every other muscle but the medial deltoid. It's a very small muscle. I mean, that muscle is, this is what it does. It pulls. It enables your arm to go from here to there, from your side and out. That's what it was put there for. And notice his traps are not elevated. The only thing that is working is that small medial deltoid. Not a lot of load is needed. Good, Steve. Now we're going to actually show this using a cable. The same motion, and we're also going to do it isolateral. Why? People have what is called bilateral deficiencies, meaning that one side is stronger than the other, or more developed than the other, and when you do something working both at the same time, you won't notice which side is actually stronger. So he'll demonstrate doing it isolaterally. Here, same motion, but with a cable. Again, notice the speed of the eccentric as well as the concentric. He's contracting it up. He's not throwing it up. He's activating that medial delt. He's not going too high, and he's coming down. He's got constant tension. There's tension all even on the bottom because the weights are not in the stack. So he still has tension right now on his medial delt. Good. And of course, he would then switch to the other side, but we don't need to demonstrate that for these purposes. Okay? Okay, now we're going to talk about the anterior deltoid, which I told you is the most overworked muscle. So you work that what? Last. Okay? We're talking about pressing not being a beneficial exercise, and the risk and the benefit. The risk far outweighs the benefit. So the anterior deltoid is put on your body so you can lift your arm from here to right in front of you. Not past this point, and again, it'll be slightly different for each person because we're all anatomically different. I feel the best exercise to do it is with a cable because you can keep constant tension on that anterior deltoid. So Steve is going to take a cable and he's going to pull it from underneath his legs. So now he has the resistance coming from behind him, which creates a great deal more resistance. And now he's going to, with his elbow slightly bent, as you can see, he's pulling it forward. Now he's fully contracted at that position. Fully contracted there. Anything higher is going to put more stress on the shoulder joint and not the shoulder muscle. Notice again the eccentric component. He's coming up. There's really three parts of the rep. There's the concentric, which is against gravity. Which is against the resistance, and then you're fighting gravity, but at the top you have that peak contraction. So there's three parts of a rep: the concentric, the contraction, and the eccentric. Notice his traps are not moving, no other part of his body moving than his arms coming in front of his body. And that's creating a huge amount of tension in that anterior deltoid. Good, Steve. Okay. The other part of the shoulder that I did want to talk about, because and some say it's part of the back, and some say also the posterior deltoid can be worked on a day you work back, which you can, is the traps. And What works the traps? One movement and one movement only, a shrug. And the best exercise to actually demonstrate that is the dumbbell shrug. Hey, the dumbbell shrug is done incorrectly in so many gyms across the country. One, you'll see people will actually shrug and they will actually come and then they will roll, which is grinding the shoulder joint. The way it's performed is really what? Just to elevate the shoulders and engage the traps, and then come down and let it stretch. So it's, again, 3 parts a rep. It's up all the way, contract it, let it down nice and slow, and stretch it. And Steve will demonstrate. Notice he's going to always sneeze slightly bent, so there's no pressure on the lower back. And again, he also has his chin tucked in. The reason he has his chin tucked in, you can actually elevate the traps higher. By keeping, see how much higher his traps are coming by keeping his neck tucked? He's not overly tucking it. See how he's contracting it up top and letting it stretch down the bottom? That's a real shrug. Notice he's not up on his toes, like you see most people when they do shrugs. See the stretch? Concentric, P contraction, eccentric. Every other part of his body is stable. Good, Steve.